I'm Michelle Henry. I'm the Chautauqua County Historian, and I've been involved with the county's bicentennial events that have been taking place this year in 2011. We actually started meeting about 18 months ago. Many folks from different historical societies and historians who wanted to lay out a plan for celebrating the county's bicentennial. And one of the things that we talked about was how wonderful it was in 1902 when each of the towns got together in one location to celebrate the county's 100th birthday. So we sent out an invitation to all of our historical societies and libraries and our municipal historians and invited them to come together for an event that would replicate the wonderful gathering of history in one location. And this is the result, our Bicentennial History Fair. And we have 60 different groups who are together at Chautauqua Suites in Mayville, and they've all brought information about their programs, their wonderful collections, and it's such an eclectic group. We have the Rural Cemetery Association, which is 100 years old itself, and many of our town historical societies like the Carroll Historical Society and the Finley Lake and Mina and Clymer Group, the Chautauqua County Historical Society in Westfield, the Fenton History Center, and we also have some of our local libraries like the Patterson Library in Sinclairville. We have a wonderful assortment of organizations that are here with the treasures that they have been charged with caring for, and they're all doing a wonderful job. And so we're so happy to be able to help them promote what they do and continue preserving the history of the county. So this event just allows us to share all of our wonderful history with anybody who's interested in coming here today and tomorrow.
Hi, I'm Beth Hadley. I'm the library manager of the Sinclairville Free Library. I'm representing the library here at the Chautauqua County Bicentennial History Fair. Our library, our new building, has been in Sinclairville for 10 years now. It's a wonderful building. We have a lot of fun activities going on. We've just put together a historical calendar that is going to be on sale here and at the library. I would welcome anyone to come visit the library or look at our website for more information. The library in Sinclairville is one of the oldest continuing libraries in the county, so that's quite an honor, and we're very proud of it. And hope to see you at the library sometime.
I'm the president of the Clymer Area Historical Society, and we are a small rural area in the southern part of Chautauqua County. And we have a museum called Haverkamp House. Well, last year we built a barn. We added some space so that we can have some displays there. And now you want to know about the area. It started, the English were in Clymer first, then it became predominantly Dutch, starting in 1845 to 50 area. A lot of Dutch people came to Clymer. And now in 1976 the Amish started coming to our area, and we have over 200 families in the Clymer, Sherman, and Panama area. So we're being taken over now by the Amish, and we have a display here about the Amish population, and we have a book that tells about them. Right over here we have a fellow who had his yoke with him today, and the wooden buckets, and we have a Clymer Tulip Festival. We only have it every 2 years now. And we scrub the streets and do it the old traditional Dutch way. And he was here demonstrating that today and had his Dutch costume on. I don't know what else you'd like to know.
Does everybody in Clymer wear Dutch shoes?
No.
They have wet feet.
Very few people wear Dutch shoes anymore. We have a pair on display, but that's a good place to have them because they're not very comfortable.
They're not comfortable?
Not comfortable, no. Their idea in the Netherlands was, because it was so wet, the wood kept out the water. Well, of course, nowadays you have rubber boots instead, and even over there they use rubber boots in their barn instead. But
you get a lot of tulips, don't you?
we have a few tulips.
You got windmills?
We got windmills. Yeah, there's a windmill coming into Clymer in every direction. But the tulips got to be a problem to keep up the gardens, so we don't have that many tulips. Instead of a tulip festival in the opposite year, now we have a musical production. This year they did Sound of Music. So that involved a lot of people in the community, and it's a fun thing to do.
All right. I'm Sally Carlson. I'm supervisor of the town of North Harmony. The town of North Harmony covers from Asheville to beyond Camp Chautauqua to Magnolia Stedman Road, up to Little America, and out to Panama. We were the last town formed in Chautauqua County in 1919, and we cover about 40 square miles. Our population is just a little over 2,300 now. We were up to 25 and we've lost a few. Our offices are located in Stowe, and we try to be very helpful, and anyone's welcome to stop anytime.
Hanover, the town of Hanover, is in the northeastern corner of Chautauqua County. It borders Cattaraugus Creek and Lake Erie, and Cattaraugus County borders it on the east. I am the Hanover historian, Vince Martonis, and I set up the display that's here. I took a double booth because there's a lot of Hanover history to share with people. So we have here, we'll start here on the far side. We have the Hanover, the Amos Sottle fiddle. Can you get a shot of that? Right here, and I'll just point. Here's Amos Sottle, our first settler of Chautauqua County, 1796. He made this fiddle out of a horse's skull. The leg bone of the horse is right here, the bow. He has a carved horse's head on the end, carved out of tiger maple. It has inlay pearl and ebony, handmade screws. You can see the eye socket of the horse right here, and the nose is going down this way. The case is in the shape of a coffin. These are some items related to Amos Sottle: a deed he signed in 1836, a receipt for some money he loaned to a man, a square nail from his actual cabin site in Irving. Sottle is also pictured here on the Hanover elm tree, which is right here. Sottle is pictured at this location on the tree. This tree grew in the southeast corner of town of Hanover. It blew down in 1938. It lay on the ground for 3 years, and then a man named Everett Burmaster, who also was the owner of the fiddle for about 40 years. Everett Burmaster went and cut 3 slices off this tree. He had his Indian friend, Sanford Plummer, in the purple shirt down here, paint 34 images of Western New York history. Some of these are very directly related to Chautauqua County, like William Cushing, who was a Civil War soldier who sunk the Confederate ironclad battleship with a torpedo. You have Roscoe Martin from Forestville holding a Devonian fossil fish, the first of its kind in the world, found in Silver Creek in 1929. So every little picture here tells the story of Hanover history. The tree was 425 years old when it fell. This slice is 14 and a half feet around. It was cut from 54 feet up the tree because it had a hollow at the bottom. So they had to go far up the tree to cut this slice out and get a solid slice. At the base of the tree, it was 35 and 1/2 feet around at 2.5 feet up the tree. I guess that's about all we can. I mean, there's more I could tell you about this, but I'll point out some other things here with Hanover history. Here we have a second great tree from Hanover. This is the giant black walnut from Silver Creek. This tree fell in 1825. When it lay on the ground, they hollowed it out, and a man rode through the center on a horse. They put a door on the tree, they attached it to a store in Silver Creek, and it was used as a curiosity, a visiting place for tourists. They held tea parties inside the tree. It could hold 39 people standing and sitting inside the tree. The tree went to Buffalo, and it was on display. It went to Rochester, Albany, New York City, Philadelphia, and it ended up in London, where it burned in a London museum about 1850. We have one artifact from the tree, which is on the back of this back of the Hanover elm slice. There's a little toothpick holder made of black walnut, which is from the wood of this tree. Every year I make these calendars and I sell them for $3 to commemorate the tree and to preserve the history. So I have some 2012 calendars available back there if people want to purchase them for $3. I also have 8.5 by 11 color copies with the history of the tree on the back. There are loads of other Hanover stories. Can you follow me inside and I can show you a few? Here we have the fossil, a photograph of the fossil fish found in Silver Creek. This is a photograph of a man holding a wax model of the fossil fish. It's called Cacosteus involutus, and it's about 380 million years old, when there was a sea covering western New York. I have a photograph of the fossil right here, and I had the actual fossil on loan from the New York State Museum for 12 years. This is a backbone, a vertebra, from the Sheridian mastodon, technically in the town of Sheridan, but it's about a mile from the Hanover border. And it was excavated in 1955. This is a single disc in the backbone. It would have a neural spine that went up this way. This is the neural canal where your spinal cord would go, right here. So in us, the vertebra would be positioned like this because we stand upright, and ours would be obviously a lot smaller. This here is a moose femur that was found at the same time that the mastodon was dug up. The bone would be positioned about like this. This is goes into the hip socket. There are other Hanover stories I can tell you about. We have here a school ledger book in which James Jesse Strang has signed his name. He was a Mormon leader. He fought with Brigham Young for control of the Mormons after Joseph Smith was assassinated. He lived his first 20 years of life in Hanover. He had 5 wives, although he professed to be a monogamist, and he pushed his people toward monogamy, but he married 5 times, had 5 wives. He was a brilliant man. He eventually became a king. He proclaimed king. He seceded from the United States, although he became a Michigan legislator for 2 terms. So we have his signature in this book. He was eventually assassinated by his followers, but he lived his early life in the town of Hanover. Over here in this frame we have the 37 post office cancellations that I designed to commemorate the Chautauqua County Bicentennial. So there's 37 different post office cancels. And some people went around during the early part of this year and got the cancels at post offices to preserve the history. Can you come in here a little bit?
That's probably about it for that.
That's about it?
You didn't have more cord.
Yeah, you have more cord. That would be great. Okay, thank you. Here we have a wooden cabin. This cabin was built by Everett Burmaster. Now he's the same man who saved the fiddle. He's the same man who cut off the slices of the Hanover elm. Everett Burmaster built this cabin as a model. Then he used this to build this concrete cabin right here in this picture. He tried to put the cabin next to his aunt's tombstone in Smith Mills Cemetery. Cemetery Association in 1934 said, no, you can't do it. It's not like the other stones. That was pretty ironic because it was her family who donated the land for the cemetery. And her ancestors lived there in a log cabin. So that's why he wanted the log cabin there. So Burmaster kept this concrete log cabin at his house into the 1960s. And before he died, he gave it to a friend of his, Bill Snyder, to preserve. Bill Snyder held on to it until about 1992, and then he told me to take it. So I had it in my backyard. I didn't know what to do with it, so I finally went to the Cemetery Association, and I said, can we just put it back in the cemetery where he wanted it in the first place? So in 2001, I went to the Cemetery Association. These are the Cemetery Association people in this newspaper article, and asked them permission to put it into the cemetery. So we put it right there on a piece of concrete. There it is next to his aunt's tombstone where he originally wanted it. Only it took 66 years to get it there. So that's another pretty interesting Hanover story. And then we have a couple others right here I can tell you about. This is an 1841 print of the wreck of the Erie. 241 people lost their lives when this steamship sank after it burned. It was filled with immigrants going from Buffalo out west, and many of them lost their lives. They put some carboys of turpentine too close to the boiler, and the turpentine heated up, exploded, and burned the ship. Many of the victims floated onto Silver Creek shores and were buried in the Silver Creek Cemetery. Over here we have a baseball signed by Howard Emke. Howard Emke was a World Series baseball player from Silver Creek. Here's this picture. This is a calendar I put together in 2004 commemorating Howard Emke. I have 18 of his baseball cards in here. He pitched in the 1929 World Series. He was on the Philadelphia Athletics. He pitched a record 13 strikeouts, and he beat the Chicago Cubs 3-1. He even got one of the hits for the Philadelphia team. It was a total surprise that he would be pitching because he was at the end of his career. But Connie Mack, who was one of the greatest baseball coaches who ever lived, selected him to pitch the first game of that 1929 World Series, and Howard Emke went down in fame. But he grew up in Silver Creek, he went to Silver Creek High School, and he played for the Silver Creek Horseshoes baseball team. So I put this calendar together, and a copy of this went to the Chautauqua Sports Hall of Fame, and it's filled with Emke baseball cards, and Emke baseball cards and Emke pictures. And at the same time that we did the calendar, I put up two historical markers to Howard Emke, located one at his home, the Emke family home, and one is located in the ballpark where the kids play ball. At the same time, I did a post office cancellation with a ball diamond here, using a baseball stadium stamps to commemorate Howard Emke Day in 2004. And the county executive proclaimed it as Howard Emke Day in Chautauqua County in 2004. So this was the calendar that we did as a keepsake, and I put all the pictures of Howard Emke. There's a model of the glove with his name on it right there. When he became famous in the World Series, they put out a model, a baseball glove with his name on it, and the glove is right over here on the shelf. So this right here is the actual Emke model glove with his name in the lower right-hand corner from about 1929. Those are probably the main stories of Hanover. There's a lot of other little stories here that I could tell you, and maybe we should do just one more, because this man is quite famous, and I should tell you about him. George F. Abbott grew up in Forestville and became a Broadway producer. This is his picture here. He produced over 120 Broadway plays, produced, directed, acted, or wrote over 120 Broadway plays. He grew up in Forestville, New York, and we have a New York State historical marker dedicated to Abbott put up in Forestville. There's a book called Mr. Abbott that talks about his life, and I have other pictures back here that people can look at dealing with George Abbott. There's a lot of other stories here from Hanover, but I better stop now. And with this on film, people can see the history in video fashion. Or they can call me, talk to me. Vince Martonis, and I have 65 newsletters that detail a lot of Hanover history. They can get copies of those at the Hanover History Center in Silver Creek at 68 Hanover Street, or they could call me and I could provide copies so they have the history now.
My name is Sally Bulger, and I'm Secretary of Chautauqua County Antique Equipment Association. Our display here at the History Fair is items made in Chautauqua County, and most everything was donated by the members from the grape industry and the tool industry and the dairy industry and the beer industry and baskets. That's about what we got. And our annual show is next week on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, August 19th, 20th, and 21st, 9 to 5. We'd like to see as many people there. We have working farm equipment, working equipment from all kinds of industries, a sawmill, a working blacksmith shop, a working print shop, weaving and things of interest to women in the museum, and with antique cars. We'd appreciate many people who would like to come down and visit.
Hi, I'm Andy Dufresne. I'm the Executive Director with the Concord Great Belt Heritage Association. We have a number of projects that we're working on to bring visitors to the area and also to promote the grape industry in the communities of the Great Belt region, which we often say goes from the Silver Creek to Harbor Creek. Of course, one of the big projects that we're working on is the development of a Grape Discovery Center. We have a location, 8305 West Main Road in Westfield. We have a building that was a former auto dealership, and in phase one we've remodeled the building, and now we are in phase two, which is to raise some additional funds to complete the interior of the building and move towards opening of that facility. We hope that in 2012 we can open the Grape Discovery Center for visitors and be able to tell the story of 150 years of grape development and the northern part of Chautauqua and Erie County, Pennsylvania, and all the other wonderful venues that there are for visitors to our area, and tell about the history, do some product tasting, and let people take home some products and arts and crafts and grape products from our region. So we are moving forward. We have to have some patience, but we're pleased that we are working on a Grape Discovery Center.
Is there any way anyone can get involved?
Well, we do have a Facebook page, so if you want to look up Grape Discovery Center, Eastern Lake Erie, you can like us, and when we have a little bit of information, we do that on our Facebook page. We do have a website, www.concordgrapebelt.org, where we put up reports and other information. And so contact me on Facebook or email and4833@windstream.net. But do a search for the Grape Discovery Center, Eastern Lake Erie, and find our little Facebook connection and like us, and when there's a little bit of information, we'll share it, and you can share information there also.
Hello, my name is Captain MacDonald. I am the cadet commander at the Jamestown Composite Squadron of Civil Air Patrol. Civil Air Patrol is the auxiliary of the United States Air Force. We are a completely volunteer organization, and we consist of cadets from ages 12 to 18 and senior members ages 18 all the way up to whatever age. We do a lot of aerospace education. We are always trying to find new, innovative ways to teach America's youth about aerospace and how airplanes work, how they fly, and also with the space programs as well, because as many people say, space is the future of America. Secondly, we do a lot of cadet programs. Since Civil Air Patrol is the auxiliary of the United States Air Force, our grades assist a lot with the military. And we also have a set chain of command in our uniforms and things like that. Lastly, Civil Air Patrol does a lot of emergency services, meaning if a plane was to go down or a person was to go missing, we can help go out and find them. We're always training to help serve our community, state, and nation to the best of our abilities. Jamestown Composite Squadron meets at the Chautauqua County Airport on Thursdays from 6 to 9. Come check us out sometime.
We're here from the town of Sheridan, and I'm Mary Langworthy, president, and we've got our display up here today for the Bicentennial from Chautauqua County. Anyway, so I don't know if you can see our doors here. These doors tell the whole history of Sheridan, and we used those for our Bicentennial display in 2008. So we brought them up again today, and everybody's enjoyed seeing those. And it kind of tells the story of Sheridan. We've added a few artifacts that we had up in our museum, which is in the center of Sheridan, in the former Oddfellows Hall on Route 20. And for instance, this small dress here is from 1833, and we thought that was a little bit different to see. And then we have some other artifacts in that book, in that case there. We have a lot of artifacts in the museum, but we didn't have the opportunity to bring everything today, so we're just kind of going with that. We have some newsletters which we publish twice a year from the Historical Society, and we also have some original canning labels that were from the canning factories in Sheridan, which there were 2 of them, and they were very popular in the earlier years. And so someone gave us those, and we are having them here today. And then we also have our newsletter in packets of 5 or 15 here, and selling just a few little odd and end books in that. And we're raffling off tomorrow our basket here, which is all from Sheridan wineries and all the fruit stands and nurseries in Sheridan. And so we're selling chances on that. And we're very happy that they were able to help us out with that. And most people have gone to supper here today, but we had a full crew here this morning, and of course tomorrow again. The town of Sheridan was formed in 1827, and it was at that time that when we got the name Sheridan from the poet Sheridan. And Where exactly in Chautauqua County is Sheridan?
Sheridan is between Fredonia and Silver Creek. Actually, it's on the lake, but the small little hamlet of Sheridan itself mostly is on Route 20 at the Four Corners, down by the Hamlet Farms, and then the Oddfellows Hall where we are. And but it's also on Route 5 that goes along the lake from Dunkirk to Silver Creek. And it's really, we have a lovely Sheridan Bay Park down there, which we do have some camping down there now. Last few years we've got camping. We didn't have that there before. It used to be just a park for the town people and for organizations to have picnics. But now we do have camping down there, and they get some really nice groups of campers in there, some fundraisers and so forth. It's quite a pretty beach, and it's been there for a long time. And many people in town enjoy that, you know. It's one of the few parks we have in town, so it makes a nice, of course being on Lake Erie, you know, it's popular. But,
It's a nice, very friendly little town, though, and everybody knows everybody, and all the businesses are all kind of together. We do have 5 wineries in Sheridan, which is a very popular thing now, touring wine tours and so forth. And we do have a lot of these fruit stands and vegetable stands. It's probably, there's a good probably 6 and even smaller stands other than the main ones. So it's a popular place for people to come in and buy produce and fruits and vegetables and visit the wineries. So we have a nice little town and we're very proud of it.
I'm Bob Johnson. I'm here with the Jamestown Street Railway Trolley Car number 93 Restoration Project. We're set up at the Chautauqua Bicentennial History Fair, thanks to Michelle Henry, our county historian. We have a trolley car here, which you can't see unless he turns the camera. Jamestown Trolley Car number 93. This is how the trolley car looked when it was in service. In 1938, the Street Railway went out of business in the city of Jamestown, so they scrapped the bodies, scrapped the metal on the bodies, and they sold the bodies for cabins up on Chautauqua Lake, French's Cabins. And eventually, when French's Cabins got rid of the trolley cars, this particular trolley ended up as a hunting camp on Thumb Road in DeWittville. And thanks to Mrs. Lucarella, we were able to get the car out of the woods for a restoration project, which we're still working on. We have the trolley out of the woods and in a nice area where it's not going to get any worse. And we have a fund set up with the Chautauqua Region Community Foundation. We're thankful for that. And we have approximately $10,000 in it right now. So we're working at raising money. And this history fair has allowed us to get the word out to some people and also to get a little more for the fund. So appreciate the time to talk, and thank you very much.
My name's Don Traynor. I'm here on behalf of the Bemus Point Historical Society. And I'd just like to say that this is a wonderful event here at the Mayville Suites this weekend. It's incredible to see so many people with such passion for the history of this county, carrying on the message of the past and sharing it with those in the future. It's really an important thing. I encourage everybody, no matter where you live and what you do, to get involved with your local historical society, become a member, gain membership in the county historical society as well as your local historical society. It's really a great thing to do, very meaningful, and I encourage everybody to do that. Thanks a lot, and I hope to see you here this weekend and next year too. Thanks.
Hi, we're at the Historic Fair at Sweets Inn in Mayville, New York. Joan Hicks, Suzanne Gross, and we're representing Point Chautauqua. And Frederick Law Olmsted laid down Point Chautauqua in 1875, and we're very proud of being associated with the famous architect Frederick Law Olmsted. We have a book that Edgar Conklin wrote, and it's for sale. Sue?
And we have historical artifacts, different homes around the community that have been maintained over the years. Back in the war years, they had a daily newspaper that went out in print for all the social events of the day, and as well as all the sporting events. Lots of sports, bridge, tennis, golf, everything, fishing, the works. It was quite a community back in the day.
I still get lost down in Point Chautauqua.
Yes, the winding roads are.
Thanks to Frederick Law Olmsted, that was his design.
That was his design. Now, Sue's grandparents have been here since the
1897.
1897, and my husband, the Hickses, also were one of the first people at Point Chautauqua. But we didn't really find out that it was Olmsted's design until 94, 93.
Really?
So we have this gem here that we did not realize that was laid down by Frederick Law Olmsted.
Yeah, my family name back then was Hespenhyde and Godlove, and I got married, and so it's gross. But the Hespenhyde Godlove is.
So how many hotels did they have down there at one time?
3. They had 3 hotels, the largest hotel being the Grand Hotel, which burned in the early 50s.
1902.
1902. But it was larger than Chautauqua's
the Athenaeum,
the Grand Hotels. And I was reading in one of these magazines that some of the residents of Point Chautauqua would go over to Chautauqua and try to get a look at Edison, because he was there in the late 20s, early 30s, and so they would go over and try to see him. They never, there's no record of them ever having seen him.
Okay, thank you.
Lots of history.
A selection piece that was adopted by the Union Army is one of its main themes. It's Battle Hymn of the Republic. Along with that was also Battle Cry of Freedom, adopted by many as their theme songs. Attention, company. Battle Cry of Freedom. Roll up. Many of the camps were in tour for the whole entire years of the war. Many of the folks at home, especially loved ones who were left behind, were often thought of. At this time, Fife and Drum Corps would like to play for you The Girl I Left Behind. Company, Girl I Left Behind. Roll on. Many of the Civil War units had mustered in by counties together. In Chautauqua and Cattaraugus counties, no exception. Also, because of the immigrants coming to the United States from the early 1840s into the Civil War, there were many Irish songs that were played. One of the songs that we have is called Minstrel Boy, and another is Wearing of the Green that we'll play back to back for you. Attention, company. Minstrel Boy and Wearing of the Green. Roll up. Back behind the living facilities here, we have an encampment of our Civil War units. Please feel free to come back, ask any questions that you would like to ask, and please see how the Civil War soldier lived in the 1860s during the Civil War. On behalf of the Chautauqua County Historical Society and Michelle Henry, we'd like to say thank you very much. Thank you. Also, we will be playing a Civil War era game of baseball called Rounders, and we'd be more than happy to have you join us. Thank you very much. Coming in, ball out.
Hi, with me today I got Andy Goodell, our county assemblyman. What do you think of this history fair?
Well, the history fair is incredible because there are so many different exhibits, and Chautauqua County has such a rich history going back 200 years, and even further. I mean, we've been a county for 200 years, but there's an incredible display, as you know, of flint arrowheads and things like that.
They were awesome.
They were awesome. That went back hundreds of years, of course, and we've got a lot of memorabilia, of course, from the Great Steamboat era. That was fun to see. The Bemus Point Stowe Ferry, of course, they just had their 100th anniversary, I think.
200
yep.
years.
And so they have a great display here, and so many different towns with historic displays. It's really fascinating.
Right behind you, that we can't really see it on camera, is the Jamestown Trolley. Restoration.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you've been down there yet.
I haven't been down there yet,
you
but
gotta
I'm
check
looking
that
forward
out,
to it.
because that is just amazing.
Yeah.
So.
And it's fun to see all the different town history centers here and
all together.
Historic societies.
I mean, it's just.
Yeah.
So, you gonna take this back to Albany?
Absolutely.
Tell them Chautauqua County's great.
Well, they know that.
They know that
already. I'm lucky that I represent the best county in the state with the best people, you know.
Well, thanks a lot.
Hey, you bet. Thank you. Great to be here.
Happy 200th birthday, Chautauqua County.